Hey friends, I'm authentically coming to you all sweaty from the gym. So I just had a great conversation with somebody about human trafficking. And they asked me a question that I get asked all the time. And the question was, when a person is being victimized in human trafficking, why don't they just leave? Why don't they ask for help? Why don't they tell someone? And again, I hear this question all the time, and it reminded me of a story that I think might be really helpful. And it's a story you might be familiar with. It's about a caged bird. So there's this beautiful little canary that was hatched in a cage and grew in a cage and reared in a cage. All of its life, all it's known is a cage. And its cage is right next to a window where every day it looks outside and it can see other birds, wild birds, soaring and swooping in the sky. And it would wonder, what would it feel like to have the sun on its back and the wind in its feathers? What would it feel like to swoop and soar with the other birds? And when the tiny little bird thought these thoughts, it would feel excitement pounding in its heart. It would sit taller in its perch. It would breathe deeply into its little bird belly, and it would sense the thrill of possibility. Sometimes a wild bird would come down and land on the windowsill, and this traveler would put its head to one side, as if quizzically thinking to itself, how could this be? A bird in a cage? It's simply unimaginable. And it was at these times that the caged bird felt most miserable. It would feel a lump in its tiny bird throat, its little shoulders would slump, and it had such a heaviness in its heart. But one day, the owner of the caged bird accidentally left the door open. The tiny bird looked through the door and it saw the birds swooping and soaring outside and the sun on their backs and the wind in their wings, and it felt a stirring inside. And the caged bird noticed that the window was also open and its little heart beat even faster at the possibility. And it considered its options. And it considered, if I leapt, would my wings carry me? What exists outside my window? It considered and it considered, and it was still considering the options at sunset when the owner returned and closed the door of the cage. One of the major hurdles in fighting human trafficking is people who have not experienced exploitation tend to think in a framework of like us and them, like their experience is so unique and dramatic and traumatic, and it is, that there's no way that they can relate. But in fact, how many of us are sitting in gilded cages with open doors, wondering at the possibility, being excited about the thrill of the possibility of soaring beyond what you imagined, and we sit and we consider. It's true that those who have experienced exploitation, they often stay. They stay a long, long time. Some are killed in their exploitation without ever escaping from it, because what's familiar feels safe, even if what's familiar is captivity. The same is true with women or partners who experience domestic violence. They may leave and leave and leave and return and return and return. I think the current average is a survivor of domestic violence will attempt to leave 7 times before she is successful or ultimately killed by her partner. But it's not us versus them. We all have potential and possibility that we dream of. What would it feel like to soar? Even in the field of human trafficking, what would it feel like to have an impact, to make a difference, to empower others? to soar. I don't know. I don't think the chasm is so different between us and them, between those experiencing exploitation and those that don't. We all have a tendency to sit where we're comfortable. Perhaps it's time to fly. See you again soon.